Hey everybody, I am back. We are gonna try and do this again, and I hope that there is not so much of a lag this time. We are recording this as well. I just figured it would be better to just do this all over again to make sure that I have a good recording for you guys. So just so you know, I am going to be sending this out to anybody who is on the email list. So if you signed up to get in here on our email list, then you will have this recording. So make sure that if you don't have it, I'll get Luke to put the link in the comments below. And I'm just going to get started, and hopefully people will join me. Yeah. Thanks again for your patience. The system that we had just was not working, and it was really too bad because it looked pretty cool, but there's not a whole lot we can do now. All right, so I'm just going to get into it. So this is a free course. I'm going to take you through how to take better smartphone photos with your device. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to walk away with a couple of things that will hopefully make sure that you're taking better photos today. That's my goal, and I'd love to see all those photos that you're taking afterwards as well. So I'm just going to get into it here. So what to expect? We believe in giving back to our community. So we wanted to create a safe space where we could share very simple tools and tips to make your photos print worthy. We want you to be able to take better photos instantly. So today, everybody uses a smartphone, and they take so many photos, but they never actually do anything with them, or very rarely do anything with them other than put them on social media. But we believe that these photos are and should be print worthy and should be something that you guys are doing something with. So we want to change that with you, and we hope that some of these tips will encourage you to think about printing your photos. So I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about next level options. So if you are lucky enough to have a beautiful DSLR that's been sitting on a shelf or in a box collecting dust, we do actually offer a paid course. It's called Learn to Use Your DSLR, and it will be online starting April 4th, 2020. So if you want to dust off that camera, let me know, and there will be a link at the end for you to sign up. At the end as well, I'm going to offer a bonus Q&A session, so you guys can ask me any questions. If you want to just take a minute right now and let me know if you're online, it would be great to see if you know who's on there, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to just jump in there and ask away. Also know that we do have a private Facebook group as well, and I will give you that link for you to sign up in there. And if you aren't able to see this live, then you'll be able to ask questions in the group as well once you get this recording, as long as you've been on our email list. So this is our family. These are our little ones. We are a family of 5. So we have a 5-year-old named Philip, and we have twins. They are fraternal, and they are boy, girl, Emma and Noah. And our lives are very busy. We do know that and believe that busy people get things done. That's really on our website. We do believe it. And we hope that you will enjoy this and be able to take better photos of your family or pets or any type of business photos as well for your online presence. So a little bit about us. We are a self-taught photo video team here in Ottawa, Ontario, and we specialize in weddings and studio portraits, and we have 3 children, obviously, who keep us super busy, but we wouldn't change a thing. And we both left our government jobs, and we took a leap of faith and just drove dove straight into the entrepreneurial world, and we couldn't be happier. We are creatives at heart, and we love to focus on our work, and we work really hard to make sure that we are providing the best service to our clients. Nothing drives us more than having a passion for what we do. So some of the things that we want to uncover today are some very common mistakes that we see that people are making that are super easily fixable with just a bit more knowledge. We believe that it's not the camera quality that makes the photographer, it's the ability to understand light and to be prepared that makes those photos really beautiful and print worthy. If you master just 2 of these things, I promise you, you will have print worthy photos each and every time you pull out that phone to take a photo of whatever you're going to take a photo of. So one of the main misconceptions that we see is that they need to have the best smartphone to take the best photos. I don't believe that. I do believe that the higher quality phones are obviously going to take higher quality, larger files, but it's really the photographer that takes the good photos and not the gear. I could pull an expensive camera off the shelf here behind me and hand it to a beginner, and they would have no idea how to take a good photo with it. It's the same thing with expensive smartphones. Just because you have a really good one doesn't mean that you still know how to take a really great photo. So if you look here, this is a photo of my daughter that I took yesterday with our cell phone. So I'll make a disclaimer here. None of these photos are edited. These are straight out of my phone, and I will let you know if there are any photos that have been edited, so you can see the difference here. So this is a photo that I commonly see where, it's hard to tell which one is a better photo. In my opinion, as much as it might not look like it, the one on the right is a better photo than the one on the left in terms of quality. And the reason for that is the position of the lighting, the distracted background behind her, and also if you look at just like the clarity in the photo. So if you see that it's quite pixelated around her head, it's very bright and a little bit over, we call it like hot spot right over her head as well. Where the one on the right, it sure does have some dark shadows, but with a little bit of tweaking, we could probably get that one looking pretty nice. Obviously, I'm photographing children and they move. This was done in a period of about 5 seconds, so she moved from one area to the other. But you can see that, it's still a really nice photo when it comes to the quality. If I were to go and print that, you can still see the depth. You can still see the details in her hair. You can see the details in her nose and her ears. So to me, I would say that the right photo is a better quality. So this is other types of photos that I see. It was actually interesting to go and take photos like this because I know how to manipulate light and know what I'm looking for. But the one on the left, I actually took in portrait mode. I use an iPhone. And so some of the things that you can see is I've got the light coming from behind him. And what it's doing is making obviously a big shadow on his face. And it has that feature where it can create what we call in the photography world a beautiful bokeh behind him where everything gets nice and blurry. But as you can see, it's a nice photo, but it could be better. And that's really what I want to teach you today, is how to make that photo better. The one on the right, you can see I focused in on him, or on the outside, and what happens is he went completely dark. So this is just not a great position for him to be in to get a really nice photo. So what I could have done differently is moved the bat around and had it so the light was coming across his face, so we would get like a nice, beautiful, soft light coming in across him, and that would have been a lot more beneficial for us, for a better photo, obviously. So another misconception that we hear a lot is that I can just fix it later in post. In photography, we say we'll fix it in post-production, which is in Photoshop or Lightroom. But realistically, for most people on a smartphone, it's a program that they don't know how to use. So we know that fixing it later doesn't always work, especially in our busy lives, unless you're a magician in Photoshop. We think that it's better to get it right in the camera the first time with little to no editing as possible. That's really what we want to get you to be able to do here, is to do a little more preparation beforehand so that you can get those nice photos right away. Especially with children, we only have about 15 seconds of their attention. Another big misconception that we see is using a preset will make all of my photos look consistent and the same. And I want to break that down for you, because presets really aren't the one fix that you're going to have. I follow a lot of people who sell presets, and from what I see, you can still see that they apply something that does the general logistics of how they tweak the photos, but they're still manually making adjustments to each photo. And that's because, that photo was taken in a different area or with different lighting, or if there was tungsten lighting, or if it was natural light, or if it was very warm or very blue in the room. Those are all things that presets don't really fix. So you need to understand what those mean in order to make sure that you're taking a good photo and you don't need presets. I'll be honest with you, we don't use presets when we shoot. We actually, obviously there's times in a professional setting where the lighting is just poor and we have to go out of our way to find lighting that is, it's getting dark outside, or it's just like in a dark, dingy room. So we do the best we can, and for those, sometimes we do have to make more edits. But for the most part, we don't use any presets. And we do very minor tweaks on our photos in Lightroom. And Lightroom is an app that you can actually download on your phone. If you wanted to do that now, you could. And it's something that, you can do minor tweaks, especially if you've got a really nice photo that you want to make some minor adjustments to. So we actually barely use Photoshop. We use it mostly for our portraits in the studio, just because we do have such controlled light. What's happening is I can see so much more detail when it comes to studio sessions, that we really do need to take more time in editing those photos, just because I can see everything. So those are the ones that I bring into Photoshop, and they take a little bit more time. But honestly, taking great photos in camera is just understanding light and being prepared. So I have 4 that I'm going to talk about today, but these are the first 2 things that I see that we can fix. So harsh lighting, I get it all the time, especially maybe older generations, where they'll say, okay, we're going to do some photos. Let's have you put the sun facing your face. And that's just not right. If you have the sun just facing in their face, people are going to be squinting. They're not going to be able to look for very long, especially kids. They are not going to do that at all. So being in that direct sun. The other thing that I see a lot is that they'll have the sun or any kind of lighting will be coming from above them. So everything that's kind of below, like their eyes, under their chin, is going to be very, very dark and shadowy. So that's something that we're going to talk about, and I'll show you some photos of. The other thing that I see a lot happening is distracted backgrounds. So, if you look behind me, you can see, I guess you can't see me on live here, but behind me I have a whole bunch of things, but it's beautifully styled and it looks really nice. But it's really hard to focus on the subject when there's too much going on in the background. So I'm going to show you some examples of that going forward here. Just hold on. So hopefully you can see this. This is my son, Noah. This was yesterday. We took some photos, and with kids, obviously they move so fast. So we have to really make sure that we are careful but strategic in our approach. So Emma was literally standing beside him, ripping clothes out of a drawer and throwing them on the floor. But he was really cute. He grabbed this book and he started reading it. And so I took a photo because, that was reality and I didn't know if he was going to move. But then I took that photo and then I thought, okay, well, why don't I just move all the clothes really quickly and don't really make eye contact with him and just pull all the clothes away and then take another photo. And you can see right then and there, the one on the left versus the one on the right are very different photos, but yet they're seconds apart. And it's because there's no distractions in the background. And if you look as well, you can see, so in this room, in the twins' room, the only source of light that was going on right there was a light, it's like a booby light on the wall, on the ceiling. So the curtains are closed, there's no natural light, so you can see the shadow right behind him there with the arrow is quite heavy. Now, if he was looking up at me, then it would be okay. But if I was trying to shoot, right across, got down to his level and got his face, you can sort of see it there on the left-hand side. It's all shadows under there. And that's because that direct, harsh light is coming from above and creating those shadows. So, if you can see this already, I hope you can. Please let me know if you can't see this. We are on slide number 13. I'm just going to see and make sure. Just going to see.
I'm so glad you made it.
Hold on. Can everybody see it? If you can see it, can you just comment that I'm on slide number 13? Let me know. Okay. So I'm going to keep going here. So I'm on slide number 13. So if you can't see number 13, I do apologize. I hope that it's not as laggy this time. Okay, so if you look at the camera, the picture on the left, you'll see that Luke has taken this photo of me to show you the light. Perfect. Thanks, Christina. So you can see the light coming from above me, and you can see the curtains are closed. So just to give you an idea of what it actually looked like right then and there. And then you can see, if you look closely at the twins sitting in the bed there, you can see the shadows are really heavy over Noah's eyes, and Emma's eyes are not as bad, but because she's looking up, but his are quite bad. And then you can kind of see my shadow as well, creeping into the bed. And it's funny because if you look at the photo in the middle of me taking a photo, Luke took a photo of me. It looks really good, but that's actually the photo next to it. That's actually how it came out. So just very weird how that happened. But anyways, I just thought it was funny to point out. So this is Luke's angle, and you can see, so one of the things that I notice is on the photo here on the left, you can see all the shadows that are coming from above. On the photo on the far right, again, you can see all that stuff that's in the background, and that's a bit distracting to me. I still think that they're cute photos. Would I print them? Maybe not. Just because I would know that I would want these photos to look better. So what I would do is, open the windows, open the blinds, and turn off that light above me, so I wouldn't have any of those shadows, and I would get much nicer photos. All right, so I'm on slide number 15 now. This is my son Phil. He's 5 years old. He jumps around all over the place. And I got Luke to kind of take a photo of me taking a photo of him. So what I wanted to talk to you about is shooting down. So you can see here that with kids, it's a little bit of a mix. I tend to shoot at their level. So usually if they're sitting, I'll sit or go on my knees. And it's just because I feel like with kids, they can get away with different angles. I never want to shoot up on a child or on anyone, but I'll definitely shoot at the same level as them. or shoot down. That's the other one. But you can see here he's moving around. He's like dancing around. I'm probably saying to him like, stop moving, stop dancing, look at the camera. And then as you can see, if you look at the photo on the right, the one that I took, you can see my son Noah's about to run through with his walker. There's plants on the side. You know, you can see like outside into our deck area. So to me, it's not that it's a bad photo, but I probably would have, you know, if I was going to take that photo again, I would probably remove him from that area, because what's happening is there's quite a harsh line with the shadow coming down his face. And also there's just too much stuff distracting in the background if I was going to take that photo. So I'm on to slide 16 now, where you can see I moved them the kids to a different area. Now, a little trick that I like to do is put photos. I like to put pillows on the ground, and the kids love it for whatever reason. If you have like a little chair, if you have like a beanbag, pillows work great. The kids just love to come and jump on them, and it gives them something to anchor themselves on. So I always try and pull something, even a little rug that they can sit on and touch. Those are some tips that I usually do to get kids to sit there. Now, they don't sit there very, very long, but it gives you enough time. As long as you're prepared and ready to go, you can get all the kids there and grab those photos. But anyway, so in this shot here, you'll see my mouth is wide open because I'm singing, and it's because I know that if I sing that they'll all start looking at me. And you can see here that you know, like obviously I look ridiculous, but I'm getting a super cute little smile and smiles from them. So it's worth it for me to have, you know, like to look crazy in order to get the shot. So if anyone's ever worked with me, they know I start singing, I start getting their attention, I make crazy noises, but it really is just so that I can really get them to pay attention to me. So anyways, that's super cute. This is my favorite photo that I took yesterday, just getting them all to sit down for a second. And these are not edited. These are straight out of my camera. But what you can see on the left side is it looks a little bit hazy on the photo that Luke took of me, because the sun is hitting that lens and creating what we call like a haziness into the photo, and it's losing the detail. So that's why if you look at the one on the right, it looks more detailed. There's a lot more sharpness happening. So it's just making sure you understand where you're putting your subjects before you take them. And then, you know, you can see as well, it's pretty light around there. You know, we've got the light doors, we got a light floor. They're not wearing super light clothes. I would usually recommend that they do wear lighter clothing, but honestly, I was just grabbing whatever we had and just threw it on them. So a couple of things you've probably heard me mention already, to shoot down. And what I mean by shoot down is very simple, is essentially like this. So whenever you see someone, this is a common thing that I see, people will start to take a photo and they put the phone kind of down and they look down to their phone. I wonder if, I don't want to stop sharing here to show you, but anyways, you know what I'm talking about, where basically you're looking down, and if you don't turn on your phone right away, there'll be like a little bit of a mirror in your phone and you can see it. But if you look down at your phone, you can see, if you look up, you just see up your nose. And that's kind of a thing that I see all the time, and it drives me crazy when I see it. So it's not that you need to have it way up in the air where it's like right above your head and you look ridiculous. You want it to be, you know, kind of just like a little bit higher than normal, than if you were to look straight at it. So those are some of the tips when I say shoot down, because anything that's closest to the camera is going to look bigger. So if you have your chin and, you know, everything really close, that's what's going to look super big. So another thing to be aware of is sun flare. So that's sort of what we talked about already, where you see that kind of haziness coming on. Now, it's not that it's always bad. I think that there is a good reason to have sun flare sometimes. and usually whenever I'm shooting with my clients, I'll do a bit of both. So I'll have the sun kind of hitting the lens, and then I'll make sure that it's not hitting the lens for a couple of photos. And it's just because sometimes it looks cool and sometimes it just doesn't. But there's a way to do it, even with your smartphone, where you can make sure that you're not letting that sun hit the camera too harsh. And I've got some examples here of how what I'm talking about now. It's very extreme because it's actually really hard to do it on a smartphone, but I wasn't quite sure how else to do it. So if you can see slide number 18, you'll see here that my son pretty much looks like a ghost. You can barely see him, and that's essentially what's happening. Is the sun is hitting the lens and it's overpowering it, and I was able to capture that picture before it moved on. But you can see here on the left that's how it looks, right? Like that's how I was set up doing it. It's not super bright out, it's not that bad, but essentially, if you look, you'll see that, usually phones are pretty good these days. They can actually figure that out quickly for you. But there's actually a little box. So if you actually hold and select on your phone when you're taking a photo, it will, you can adjust what's going to be brighter or darker. So if you hit like the outside, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be, if you bring the brightness up, the outside is going to be really bright, and then you lose your subject. But if I was clicking on my son and I brought the brightness up, then everything else behind him would look dark and he would look bright. So there is ways to do those adjustments in Androids and in iPhones as well. So I suggest that you play around with that if you haven't figured that out yet. But essentially, this is what a sun flare looks like in an extreme version. So you'll see here, I got Luke to take a couple photos of me, basically trying to hide and put my phone in some kind of a shade so there wasn't too much sun coming in. And it was hard to do yesterday because there wasn't really a lot of sun, and there's not really a lot of sun today. But essentially that's what you would do, is you would get your phone into some shade and then you would block that light from coming in, and it's super easy to do and it'll make a huge difference on your photos. So if you're still with me, just say hello. I hope that you're still seeing all the right pages. I'm gonna just give it a little delay here just so that way we can make sure that it's caught up. And make sure if you have any questions as well, just like put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. So I'm going to go on I'm on slide number 20. And so this is my son here. Again, you'll see my little trick with the pillows. He's 5 years old and I still use it because he literally just likes to bounce everywhere. So this is like a little cool trick that I use. And you can tell he's just like over it. He just did not want to be taking any more photos. And so anyways, I wanted to show you these two photos. So there's two things that are happening here. So a lot of the times right now you'll see, especially, I don't know how it is on Android, but on iPhone, they basically have an option where you can zoom in and take a photo. But the second that you zoom in, you actually lose quality in the type of photo that you take. So I highly suggest that instead of zooming in, that you get up and move closer. So don't be afraid to move back and forth. You're going to get a higher quality photo that way. So one of the things you'll see is with the one on the left, I zoomed in and you can see that it's a little bit blurry, it's a little bit pixelated, it's not as good a quality of lens. But what I was trying to avoid was what you see on the right, where you see like the vents, not the vents, it's like our what do you call it? Our in-home vacuum thing in the wall, the plugs, the vent on the floor. Those are types of things that you would want to try and avoid. Again, it's not a big deal, but it is a little bit distracting, and you might not want to print it because you see those things. So making sure that you're setting them up in a space where you're not going to have anything that's going to prevent you from printing if you did really love that photo and it turned out great. Another thing that always happens to him, poor guy, is his ears get a little bit see-through, so you can kind of see the redness. So that's something I see a lot of people doing. So again, just making sure that you're putting them in a position where you're not getting that weird kind of see-through red ear thing going on. So I'm on side number 21 now, and these are just a couple of photos that Luke took. And again, you can just kind of see the distracting things in the background. So obviously I have 3 kids, they're always bouncing around. Personally, I think the one on the right, I think it's a super cute photo. He's far enough away from that direct light that it still looks really nice and soft on him. There's no real shadows, but it's too bad that there's all that stuff kind of behind him that's, a little bit distracting, like the cardboard box, the other kids playing. If it was just him, I think I would like it a little bit more. Not to say that if you want to get crazy in Photoshop, you could do that, but I definitely wouldn't, and I don't think you would either. So but it's just to show you, like, you can get some really nice photos. It's just a little bit harder sometimes with kids. So one of the big recommendations that I have now is to be intentional with your photos when you're taking them of your children. We know our children and when they are usually the most cooperative. So make it fun. Say it's going to be photo shoot time. Grab a favorite toy, grab a pillow, sing songs, and laugh with them. If you make it really stressful and start yelling and get upset with them, that's going to make it really hard and they're never going to want to do photos with you. I do bribe my children. Obviously, the 1-year-olds, I can't. They don't listen even if I tried. But bribes are okay. Say we're gonna have 15 minutes of iPad time or something if they listen, and so you can get a couple of cute photos. And honestly, I find that if we make it fun, we sing songs. I don't really care if they're always looking at the camera. I find that kids are generally excited to do them. So these small tips, I hope, can truly make a difference in the quality of your photos. There's no need to go out and get new outfits and pick cute outfits that have meaning. I find that, there's always like a shirt or something, especially now because my son's getting older, where I see Noah wearing it now and I'm like, oh, that's such a cute shirt. I remember when Phil wore it. Pull out those clothes and put them on, because those are the ones that they truly have meaning to us, and those are the times where you can take it. I usually recommend that you go barefoot, or cute shoes are fun too. But if your kids hate shoes, don't put shoes on them. Don't force them. That's just going to make them angry and not listen. So, try not to make it too hard. My son does not like wearing anything but shorts and t-shirts, so that can sometimes be a little bit hard, but that's where the bribes come in. So, another thing to do is coordinate your outfits. So if you know that the background is going to be really light, make sure that 50% of the clothing is also light to give you a little bit of a cleaner, light look. If you put a white background and then everyone's wearing black, it just, you kind of lose them. So I usually recommend, keep the lighter colors, especially if that's the look that you're going for. So always choose lighting that is flattering. So if in doubt, you can always put sheers up. So if you're finding that you've got these big spots on the floor that are big, bright, flashes of lights, you can actually just stick a sheer or a thin white sheet over them. Just stick a little tack in them. And that's going to diffuse your light enough that you're going to have these beautiful, soft, shadows on your subjects. I usually recommend that you don't want to have too much light. If you have that, it's gonna be blown out and you're not going to print that photo for sure. So making sure that you put up a pair of a sheet if you need to, and you're going to be blown away by the difference. Ideally, patio doors are really nice, as long as you have a sheer on them and you can't see in the backyard, and they provide a nice, like, even light from head to toe. If you don't have a patio door, if you don't have shears, like I said, you can use a white sheet if you can. And then if you're still finding that you're getting a lot of shadows that are really heavy on that one side, you can actually use like a white reflector, and anything that's white will do for that. So, and it'll essentially bounce the light right back onto them, and it'll soften those shadows. So sticking a sheet up, you can make like a pretend fort, or using a poster board or a foam board. Those are ways that you can push light back onto your subjects as well to give them a softer look. So another feature that I found as well that's available on Androids or iPhones is that you have the option to turn on grid mode. This is a really great option if you're looking at applying the rule of thirds. Now, I thought, well, what is the rule of thirds? We haven't talked about that yet, but it's something that's really important when it comes to photography, and it can really set you out from being an amateur to being somebody who knows what they're doing. So I've put the instructions here on the screen on how you can set that up for iOS or Android, but essentially what the rule of thirds is, it's a type of composition in which an image is divided evenly into thirds. So both horizontally and vertically, the subject of the image is placed at the intersection of those dividing lines or along one of the lines itself. So rule of thirds is very important. Sometimes I see photos where the rule of thirds is not applied, and you can see people's heads are cut off, like too low, or they're not in the center of the thing. It's not that you always have to be centered, but you really want to make sure that you're applying that rule as much as you can. And the grid mode is something that can help you with that. So I did use it here to take a photo of the chandelier behind me, and you can see what that looks like and how you can move that around. And it really does make sure that you're getting your photo centered, especially if that's what you're going for. So making sure that you use that, and it can help with making sure it's straight, which is something I'm going to talk about later as well. Okay, so a lot of people always ask about editing, so I thought that I would do a little bonus video for anybody that's given me their email. I'm actually going to be sending out this whole video for you guys, so you can rewatch it as many times as you like, but I've also put a bonus editing video I'm going to be putting in the Facebook group. So if you're not part of that Facebook group, make sure that you sign up, because that's where you're going to get this little tips and tricks when it comes to editing some of these photos that I've shown you today. So for tip number one that I'm going to say here for editing, for lighter natural photos, try reducing the shadows and highlights. Those are some of the things that I almost always do when I'm editing my photos. Tip number two, if your photos look orange or blue, adjust the temperature until you find what makes sense for you. Some people really like orange photos. Some people really like more bluish tones. I try and go for what like naturally looks like. You know, if you were to stand outside, what does it naturally look like as much as possible? So don't be afraid to play around with any of the sliders, because again, hopefully you've been able to download the free tool on your phone. The Lightroom app is free for anyone to download, and it has all of these different tools in there. And again, you'll be able to access that in the Facebook group where I go through it. But remember, the idea is that you want to set up your space so that you don't have to do much editing. The idea is that if you need to make the edits, that you have to make slight ones. But if you do need to do them, I can show you how to do that. So I wanted to show you a little before and after. So these are some of the photos that I kind of loved from my little mini photo session yesterday with the kids on my iPhone. And this is one of Emma. So you'll see here, before, it's still a really cute photo. It's something that I still like, but I did apply some of the edits that I just talked about, reducing the shadows, bringing the highlights down a little bit, and reducing some of the noise. These are things that you can do easily in Lightroom and the free app, and this is what I did to this one here. So you can see here that I played around with it, and it just looks a little bit cuter in my opinion. So this one here, this is the one we talked about earlier. Remember where you can see my shadow kind of hanging over Noah. I moved all the clothes out of the way so that way, you didn't see them in the background. It wasn't distracting. So all I literally did here was I actually cropped it a little bit, because you can see that in the other one, there's a little bit of a shadow in the corner. I cropped it, I straightened it out, and I adjusted the shadows and the highlights, and that's pretty much all I did. So this is the twins hanging out in their bed, and remember, this is that harsh light that's coming from above them, from that light from a source from above. So we always want to have that soft light coming from the side. Right now I'm actually sitting by a window, and I have just a sheer over the window to give me this soft, beautiful look. And that's not what I have in these photos. But what you can see is that with a little bit of editing, it looks a little bit better. Emma's face isn't quite so dark, but you can still see that shadow if you zoom in underneath their eyes. But it does look better. It's still print worthy in my opinion. So this one here is that photo of Phil that you would have seen earlier where I was using portrait mode. I personally try not to use it too much. I find that it's just very inconsistent for me. When I'm using my iPhone, I just want it to work, especially because my kids are moving so fast. So if I'm trying to make adjustments in my phone, it just is not as convenient for me as a regular camera. If you're better at it than I am, then definitely keep practicing. But I find that I don't use it as much as probably some people do. And it's mostly because you can see that it just looks a little bit too much. He moved and then like half his head got blurry here. But one of the things that I did do is the same thing. I brought those shadows up a little bit, reduced those highlights, and then something that I played around with was some of the colors that are in this photo. So you'll see that the blues look a little bluer, the yellows look a little yellower because I was able to play with those in Lightroom. But there wasn't a lot changed there. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you go and download the app. I don't get paid for this or anything, but it's a really great app that's free on iOS and on Android. And quickly, I'll just talk to you a little bit about my DSLR course. So it is launching online on April 4th, 2020, and it'll be from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. It's $149 plus HSD, and we do have payment plans available given the times that we're in today. It's a great gift to finally learn what all those buttons mean. And we did a workshop not that long ago in person back in February, and it was really great. It was awesome, and I hope that you guys have learned a couple of things today. But if you do have a really fancy camera and you really want to take it to the next level, then you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for that. So now I'm going to hop into Q&As. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. If not, like I said, I'm going to send you this recording. And as long as you're in the Facebook group, then you'll get the editing video as well. But yeah, if there's any questions, I'll just kind of wait here for a second and see if there's any questions coming in. All right, so we've got a question here from Rachel. Thanks. Should I always leave the flash on my phone? So I never use a flash unless it's pitch black outside. But I never use a flash on my iPhone because it's just the quality isn't what I like. I preferably will always place people in a better lighting or get people to move. But I never do. But you can try it out and see if you can get some nicer photos without using a flash. All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. I'm gonna let you go. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the Facebook group. And I'd love to see some before and after photos. If you have some, that would be awesome. It'd be really nice to show some in the group, maybe of some that you took, yesterday or the day before, and some that you take maybe today or tomorrow, because it'd be really nice to see some before and after. So if you do have some, I really appreciate you sending them my way or posting them in the group. And I hope that you guys took away a couple of tidbits that you can take home and get some really nice photos with your smartphone. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone, and take care. Bye.